If saving your father meant putting another man in a grave, what would you do? Lola answered that question every night when she walked out of Eum Taeyang's mansion with information that could get him killed, and slipped anonymous warnings back inside to keep him alive. The clock in the mansion's main hall clicked louder, judging every single passing second. Lola's heels clicked against the marble, just loud enough to remind anyone listening that she existed, but not loud enough to seem like she cared. She paused at the hallway's edge, straining her ears. No guards and no whispered conversations bleeding through walls. Also, no red camera lights blinking just at the edge of every wall. Perfect. She exhaled slowly, tasting the ghost of Taeyang's morning black and bitter coffee that had probably gone cold by now, because the man treated caffeine without respect. Lola. His smooth and commanding voice sliced through the silence with just enough irritation to let her know he'd been waiting for this exact moment, but she didn't turn around. I didn't say you could leave, he added. I'm not leaving, she said, still facing away, letting a smile curve her lips where he couldn't see it. I was just giving the floor a chance to miss me. The floor doesn't have opinions, unlike you. Then we're even, because I don't have opinions about the floor. She finally turned, meeting his gaze with that practiced look of mild insubordination she'd perfected over 3 years. But I do have opinions about everything else, she added. Taeyang leaned against the doorframe of his office, crossing both arms and looking annoyingly composed for someone who probably hadn't slept. Your legs were walking toward the exit. What can I say? My legs have minds of their own and, well, I've been meaning to have them checked. She spread her arms, explaining something absolutely no one even asked about. His pen clicked once, then twice with a metronome of controlled irritation. Kitchen. Now, we need to talk about your schedule. My schedule is flawless. She blinked. Your schedule has holes I could drive a truck through. He said. Then maybe you should hire a better calendar, she said sweetly, and walked past him toward the kitchen before he could respond. The kettle screamed and Lola yanked it off the burner, watching steam curl into the air. Relatable, she thought. Then came a knock at the door, too polite to be Taeyang, but too hesitant to be anyone confident. Come in, Min-jae, she muttered as he slipped inside, clutching his tablet. How did you... You knock as if you're afraid the door will file a complaint. She poured coffee, not looking at him. What is it this time? Let me guess, I'm compromising operational security by breathing too loudly. Min-jae's jaw tightened. Apparently he's Taeyang's personal assistant who always does things no one ever asks him to do. You were late again. 23 minutes late, he said, arranging the balance of the tab he was holding. 23? That's oddly specific. Are you tracking me, or are you just really, really bored? His ears went red. I'm concerned about patterns and anomalies. Anomalies. Lola stirred her coffee slowly, watching the liquid swirl. That's a fancy word for I don't trust you, but I can't prove anything yet. That's not. He stopped, realizing he'd walked into that one. There's chatter, security breaches. I think... She raised her hand. You think I'm the leak? Min-jae's silence was enough as an answer. Lola set down her spoon, turning to face him fully. Let me save you some time, Min-jae. Yes, I leave late. Yes, I come back looking like I fought a raccoon in an alley. And yes, if you keep following me with all the subtlety of a marching band, you're going to get the wrong person killed. The wrong? Taeyang, she said flatly. You think you're protecting him by watching me. Newsflash, bro. You're not. You're creating a spotlight that leads straight back to him. So do us both a favor by worrying quietly. And for God's sake, stop leaving your surveillance notes where the cleaning staff can find them. Min-jae went pale. I didn't. East wing, 3rd drawer down, under the folder labelled expense reports, which, by the way, is possibly the least creative hiding spot I've ever seen. She picked up her travel mug. You're lucky I'm the one who found it, and not someone who'd actually use it against him. She moved toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Min-jae? If you really want to help him, stop treating me like the enemy. I'm not the one you should be worried about. Then who? But she was already gone, clicking her heels down the hallway like a countdown timer nobody else could hear. The alley smelled like wet garbage and regret as Lola took the thin package from the courier, weighted with the kind of papers that could end lives if read by the wrong eyes. "You're late," a voice said behind her, but she didn't jump. "Gong Suk." She turned slowly, keeping her hands visible, and just barely managed to keep her face neutral. "You really should stop doing the dramatic entrance thing. You're going to throw out your back," he smiled. But it didn't reach his eyes. Never did. "I appreciate punctuality, and I appreciate not being ambushed in alleys, but here we are, disappointing each other." She tilted her head slightly. Amusing. He stepped closer, and she caught the scent of expensive whiskey and leather. Everything about him screamed money and violence in equal measure. "You know what I don't find amusing? Delays, complications, and last but not least, surprises. I really dislike surprises." Her stomach dropped half an inch. "What's changed?" "Timelines," he said flatly. "Your father's usefulness has an expiration date, and it's bound to come sooner than expected." She kept her face still, but her fingers tightened on the package. "I'll handle it. I know you will." He tilted his head, studying her. "Because if you don't, I won't be the one paying the price. And we both know how fond you are of your father. It's touching, really, and thug. And it almost makes me nostalgic for having feelings." He smirked. "You're all heart," she muttered. "I'm all business." He stepped back, already half disappeared into the fog. "Don't make me regret trusting you, Lola. Dead accountants are easy to replace, and daughters who know too much, less so." He vanished, leaving only the smell of whiskey and the weight of unspoken threats. Lola stood there for 3 seconds, letting her hands shake where no one could see. Then her phone buzzed. "Minjae, you're walking into a trap. He'll die. Stop." She typed back, "I know. That's the point." And for just a moment, alone in the rain-soaked alley with a package full of lies and half-truths, Lola let herself laugh. Because if she didn't laugh, she'd scream, and screaming attracted attention. She'd learned that lesson a long time ago. Back at the mansion, Taeyang watched the security trying so hard to solve a particularly interesting chess problem. Every anomaly Lola created was a breadcrumb, and he'd been following the trail for weeks. Minjae hovered at his shoulder, radiating anxiety like a space heater. "She's playing with fire." "She's juggling chainsaws while riding a unicycle," Taeyang corrected, not looking away from the screen. "And somehow not bleeding yet. That takes skill," he smiled. "This isn't funny." Minjae didn't finish. "I'm not laughing." Taeyang's voice dropped, losing its lightness. "I'm impressed. There's a difference." Minjae's jaw clenched. "We don't even know why she's—" "You don't know," Taeyang interrupted, finally turning to face him. "I do, and that's what matters." "That's—" Minjae struggled for words as his cheeks slowly changed into coloured frustration. "That's the most infuriating thing about you. That certainty. Like you've read the last page of a book nobody else even knows exists." Taeyang's smile was thin. "If it helps, I haven't read the last page. But I know how she thinks, and right now she thinks she's protecting someone." He paused. "She's wrong, but her being wrong keeps her useful and alive." Minjae opened his mouth, then shut it. He hated that tone. Lola ducked into another alley, pulling her father behind her. The rain had turned the city into a funhouse mirror with familiar streets that suddenly felt menacing, and every reflection became a potential threat. "Stay close," she hissed. "And whatever you do, don't." "Don't what?" Her father's voice cracked slightly. "Don't panic? So I shouldn't question why my daughter apparently moonlights as an action hero?" Despite everything, Lola felt her lips twitch. "I was going to say, don't trip, but sure, those work too." They moved fast, cutting through a parking garage where fluorescent lights slowly flickered, guiding him toward a stairwell, with their boots echoing on concrete. A roof wasn't ideal, but sometimes the best escape route was up. Once on the roof, the rain kept on pelting down, while Lola pressed her father behind an air conditioning unit. The metal was cold and unforgiving. "I can't lose you," she said, and hated how small her voice sounded. "You won't." His hands shook, but his voice stayed steady. "You're too smart. Too." "Don't," she cut him off, sharper than intended. "Don't put that on me. People who are too smart die all the time, usually because they believe in the way they predict things." A movement and a whistle of air that felt precise to be random suddenly passed. Lola's hand found her pistol and D. Two figures silhouetted against the city lights continued to hover around them. "Get down," she breathed. The first shot was clinical as she dropped the man down soundlessly without drama. The second man hesitated, making a fatal mistake, and Lola fired again, temporarily solving another unnecessary problem. Her father gasped. "You just—" "Yeah." Lola was already moving, pulling him toward the fire escape. "You can add it to the list of things we'll unpack later in therapy, but right now, just move." Meanwhile, Taeyang continued to execute his own design with the precision of a watchmaker as he leaned back, watching data scroll across his screen. "You're clever," he murmured. "Dangerously clever." Min-jae, still anxiously hovering around him, finally exploded. "This isn't a game. She's risking everything, and you're sitting here like I know what I'm doing?" Taeyang's voice was silk over steel. "Because I do. She's dangerous because she thinks she's in control. That illusion keeps her sharp. And yes, Min-jae, it keeps her useful." "She's a human being," Min-jae's voice cracked. "Not a chess piece you move around until she breaks." Taeyang's eyes, when they finally met Min-jae's, were cold. "And that's exactly why she's still breathing. I don't break my pieces. I position them where they can win." Lola ran into a safe house with the scent of mildew pulling her father. She triple-checked the locks, windows, and sight lines, anything that could become an entry point for someone with a gun and bad intentions. Her father collapsed into a chair, soaked through, looking 10 years older than he had this morning. "I should have seen it coming. All those years, thinking I was the one controlling the accounts." He let out a bitter and hollow laugh. "I didn't even see the trap I was living in." "You didn't need to see it." Lola's voice sounded gentler than her words. "That was my job. Your job was to be my daughter, not my bodyguard, We don't get to choose our jobs sometimes." She placed a palm on the rough edge of a table. "We just get to choose whether we're good at them." He stared at her, mixing pride and horror in his expression. "You're risking everything for me." "Why?" "Everything is overrated." She pulled out some documents, spreading them carefully. "Survival is underrated, and tonight I'm very interested in both of us surviving." The papers fanned across the table. Numbers, accounts, and evidence of Gong Suk and the corruption of his criminal organization laid bare. "We'll use this," she said, tapping the documents, "and we'll force his hand since Taeyang won't move without knowing the full board. He's strategic and predictable that way, and you'll survive if I play this right. I don't want to be a pawn." Lola's father muttered under his ragged breath. "You've never been a pawn, Dad." Her voice softened. "You're the target, and I know that targets survive when the person protecting them is stubborn enough to make the universe blink first." Across the city, Taeyang moved through his mansion quickly, studying all of the anomalies Lola left behind. "You're clever," he said to the empty room. "Very, very clever." Min-jae trailed behind. "She's putting everyone at risk. You need to stop her before—" Taeyang raised one finger, and that was all it took. "No!" "She's doing exactly what needs to be done." "You sound like you're proud she almost got us killed." "I'm proud she's alive." Taeyang's smile was razor-thin. Most people in her position would be decorating an alley somewhere, but she's still walking, and that's worth respecting. "This isn't a game." "Everything is a game, Min-jae." Taeyang turned, and for a moment his mask slipped, revealing something colder. "The question isn't whether you're playing, it's whether you know what game you're in." Lola's phone buzzed with another anonymous warning. "There's no more time, so you have a few hours left." "Perfect," she muttered, "because I was hoping for more pressure." "What?" Her alarmed father looked up. "Nothing. Just the universe reminding me it has a sense of humor." She grabbed his arm. "We're moving, now." They hit the neon-slicked and rain-washed streets again as Lola counted steps, calculated angles, and memorized exits. A horn blared, and she quickly shoved her father into an alley, pressing him against brick that smelled of desperation. "How long?" he whispered. "How long what? How long have you been living like this?" She didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because the truth was, she didn't remember what not living like this felt like anymore. Then she felt the fast-approaching movement and wrapped a hand around her pistol. "Close your eyes, Dad." "What? Close them," she grunted. The first shot echoed loudly as the man dropped. The second took too much time arranging a bullet and paid for it. Her father's breathing was ragged. Jesus, Lola. This isn't the time for theology. She pulled him forward, splashing their boots through puddles that reflected the city back at them in broken pieces. Both ran into a different warehouse, and Lola's footsteps echoed off concrete walls as each sound continuously announced their presence. Her father stayed close, clutching his briefcase filled with evidence of embezzlement and corporate murder. "This is a terrible plan," he whispered. "All my plans are terrible," Lola whispered back. "But the trick is surviving them anyway." She scanned every shadow, every doorway, every beam of light cutting through the dusty air. Gong Suk's men were supposed to be here, but she didn't see them yet. That could mean they were late, or it could mean what she wouldn't have liked to consider at all. She was betting on the latter. "Stay sharp," she said, tightening her voice. "One wrong move, and—" "I know." Her father's voice cracked. "I know, Lola. I'm not an idiot." She almost laughed. "I know you're not. That's what worries me. Smart people do stupid, brave things." 2 buildings over, Taeyang crouched behind a window, pressing high-powered binoculars to his eyes. He'd orchestrated this setup, arranging a symphony accounting for every camera angle, every guard position, and every single variable. Well, almost every variable. He watched Lola move and, despite himself, felt something like admiration. Min-jae fidgeted beside him, practically vibrating with anxiety. "This is insane. She's out there alone, and Gong Suk is exactly where I want him," Taeyang interrupted. "Lola thrives in chaos. If you interfere now, you'll get her killed faster than Gong Suk ever could." "But, Min-jae," Taeyang's voice dropped to absolute zero. "Control your panic or leave. Those are your options." Min-jae clenched his fist so hard his knuckles went white, but he stayed. Inside the warehouse, Lola positioned her father behind a stack of crates, giving off the smell of industrial oil, rust, dust, and something metallic that made her stomach clench. "Keep this safe." She placed the briefcase in his hands. "And don't lose it, no matter what happens." "What's going to happen?" he asked. She met his eyes, really looked at him. When had he gotten so old? When had those lines appeared around his eyes, and when did that grey threaded through his hair? "Honestly, I have no idea." She tried for a smile. "But I'm very good at improvising." "Lola?" "I know, Dad." Her voice softened. "I know." Then the first of Gong Suk's men appeared, moving with readied weapons. Lola's pulse quickened, but her hands stayed steady. She'd been trained for this. A suddenly loud shot cracked through the air, and Lola dove behind the crates as her father flinched, flying both hands to cover his head. Bullets pinged off concrete, each one a punctuation mark in a sentence she couldn't read yet. She precisely returned fire. Dropping the first one down, then everything went sideways. Min-jae appeared from nowhere, crashing through a side entrance, fired wildly, and a stray bullet ricocheted off a support beam, missing Lola's father by inches. "Min-jae!" Lola's voice cut through the chaos. "What the fuck are you doing?" "Helping." He sounded genuinely confused, which would have been funny if it wasn't actively getting them killed. "Helping almost shot my father." She fired twice more, dropping another man. "Get to cover before I shoot you myself." Her father pressed himself against the column, breathing hard. Is he supposed to be here? Absolutely not. Lola dragged him behind a reinforced pillar, with her mind racing through calculations. Every plan she'd made was now ash as Min-jae's interference had scattered the pieces. Then Gong Suk stepped into the light, flanked by bodyguards wearing a smile that belonged in a nightmare. Well. His voice sounded smooth and cultured, the little maid who thought she could play with the grown-ups. Lola straightened, keeping her gun level. "You're too late. You've already lost." He let out a dangerously low laugh that echoed off the walls. "I've lost? To you?" He gestured at her dismissively. "A maid with a gun and delusions of competence? You think you've beaten me?" "I don't think," Lola said, using a cold voice. "I know." Because Taeyang's plan was already unfolding in the shadows as hidden operators moved silently, cutting off exits while repositioning lights. But he let Lola have center stage. She'd earned this moment. Gong Suk's smile faltered. Just slightly. Kill her. His men moved. Lola fired, making each shot precise and deadly, but there were too many. Min-jae finally got his act together, providing covering fire from his position. Not good covering fire, but fire nonetheless. Bullets flew. Concrete exploded. Her father stumbled, and Lola's heart stopped, but she caught him, dragging him back behind cover. "Stay down!" she screamed. That's when her father made his choice. He rose from behind the crates, with stuff, but determined movements, brandishing a gun Lola didn't even know he had, and pointed it directly at Gong Suk. Time slowed and all sounds distorted. "Dad!" Lola lunged, but she was too late and too far away. "I'm done being a pawn." His voice shook, but held firm. "I'm done being used." He fired under panic. The shot was wild, missing Gong Suk by a foot. But Gong Suk returned a clinical shot that didn't miss. Lola's father crumpled, the gun clattered from his hand, and his eyes went wide with surprise. "Dad!" Lola's raw scream tore from her throat, and moving without thinking, she slid across concrete, catching him as he fell. Blood. So much blood continued to flow out of his wounded skin. No, no, no. Her hands pressed against the wound, trying to hold him together through sheer force of will. "Dad, stay with me." "Lola." His voice was faint, fading. "I'm sorry. I'm so... Don't you dare apologize." Tears blurred her vision. "Don't you fucking dare." "Had to." His weak and trembling hand found hers. "Had to make it mean something." "It meant something when you were alive, you stubborn." Her voice broke. "Love you." His eyes were distant now, looking at something she couldn't see. So proud. "Dad? Dad?" But he was gone. Just like that. The briefcase had fallen open, papers scattered, spreading evidence of Gong Suk's embezzlement across the floor, and Lola understood that her father's final act, shooting at Gong Suk, exposing the corruption publicly, was one last act of play, ensuring that even in death, he'd fractured Gong Suk's organization from within. Smart people do stupid, brave things. Gong Suk's face darkened as his men started backing away, recognizing the papers, understanding what had just been exposed. And Taeyang chose that moment to move in, coordinating forces Lola hadn't even known were there. Within minutes, the situation was contained. Gong Suk was neutralized and his empire crumbled. Lola knelt beside her father's numb body, soaked in rain and blood and failure. Taeyang approached slowly. "Lola, don't." Her voice was hollow. "Just don't. You did well. Better than... My father is dead." She looked up at him with fierce eyes. "I didn't do well. I only survived. There's a difference." He nodded slowly. "There is." Min-jae appeared, with the expression of guilt written across every feature. "I'm so sorry. You thought you could help." Lola's voice sounded exhausted. "You almost got us all killed, but you didn't mean to. So, thanks, I guess, for trying." He looked like she'd slapped him. "Lola, I need you to leave now, please," she muttered as the tears streaked down her cheeks. Later, when the bodies were removed and the evidence collected, Taeyang approached her again. She sat on a crate, staring at nothing. "You could work with me," he said quietly, "but for real this time." Lola let out a bitter and broken laugh. "Partnership, right? Because that worked so well tonight. You survived, against odds that should have killed you. My father didn't survive." She finally looked at him. "And he died because I thought I could control everything. Because I thought I was clever enough to save everyone." She stood, swaying slightly. "I'm done, Taeyang. Done with games. And done with men who think they can save me or use me or whatever you think this is." "What will you do?" he asked. "I don't know." She walked toward the exit with heavy footsteps. "But I'll do it alone. I've learned that much, at least." He watched her go, and something like regret crossed his features. "Lola." She paused, but didn't turn around. "Your father was proud of you. That much was obvious." Her shoulders shook just once. Then she was gone, disappearing into the rain-soaked night.